Buddha was not always a ghost. Once, he was Agni's favored son, a radiant deity whose laughter sparked comets and whose footsteps left embers in the sky. The other gods called him the Untamed Flame, for while they used fire to forge and bless, Buddha adored it for its chaos. He danced in wildfires. He whispered to volcanoes. He kissed mortals just to watch them blush with fever. But his greatest sin: he stole a piece of Agni's heartfire, the sacred undying flame meant only for the gods, and gifted it to a mortal woman. Why? The gods demanded. Because she asked, Buddha replied. For this he was cursed. Agni, weeping, tore the divinity from his son. His golden skin turned ashen. His flames dimmed to mere heat. No longer a god, not yet a mortal. He became Buddha, the hungering ghost, doomed to wander the earth, feeling fire but never creating it. The last thing Agni said to him: "You will never burn again, until a mortal loves the fire as you do." Long before the first ember flickered in the hearts of men, before the gods had tamed the sun's fury into warmth, there was a land where fire did not burn, it dreamed. This was Assam, a kingdom of mist and monsoon, where rivers coiled like serpents and the earth hummed with secrets. Here, fire was not merely heat. It was a living thing, a restless spirit that danced in the shadows of bamboo groves and whispered in the smoke of dying leaves. But no flame could be held. No fire could be tasted, until one girl dared to ask for the impossible. Luity was born under a blood-red moon, the kind the village elders whispered was an omen. From her first breath she was different. While other children recoiled from the sting of wild ginger or the bite of raw garlic, Luity chewed them without blinking. "Her tongue is cursed," the villagers murmured. "No," her mother insisted. "It is waiting. Waiting for a fire that could match her spirit." Luity grew restless. She foraged the forests, tasting every bitter root, every sharp berry, but none satisfied her. The village healer, an old woman with eyes like cracked clay, warned her. "Child, the fire you seek is not of this earth. It is the flame that the wind stole from the gods." Undeterred, Luity climbed the highest hill at dusk, where the wind howled like a wounded beast and cried out, "Spirits of the unseen fire, if you hear me, give me a flame that does not just warm, but lives." The wind swallowed her words. That night, the village dreamed of embers. Far to the east, in the forgotten peaks where the sky bled into Bhutan, there wandered a spirit named Buddha. Once he had been a god, a keeper of the sacred flame, but he had been cast out for loving the wild fire too much. Now he was a ghost of heat without light, a flicker in the wind. When Buddha heard Luity's plea, he laughed, a sound like crackling kindling. "A mortal who hungers for true fire," he mused. "This I must see." He rode the monsoon winds to her village, appearing not as a specter, but as a man-shaped ripple in the air, his edges blurring like smoke. Luity, sitting by the river, did not startle when he spoke. "You called for fire, girl. But fire does not come without sacrifice. What must I give?" she asked. Buddha's grin was a slash of heat. "Your fear." From his chest, he plucked a single seed, glowing like a dying star, pulsing like a heart. "Plant this where two rivers argue and the earth sighs steam. Then you will meet the fire that dances." Luity journeyed to the valley where the Brahmaputra's twin forks clashed, their waters hissing against heated stones. Here, the ground was always warm, as if the earth itself was breathing fire. She buried the seed. For weeks, nothing. Then, on the night of the new moon, the earth split. From the crack unfurled a plant unlike any other, its leaves sharp as dragon scales, its stems twisting like serpents. And from its branches hung fruits, small, wrinkled, and red as a widow's bindi. Luity plucked one. The moment her teeth pierced its skin, the world ended. Fire erupted in her veins. Her throat became a furnace. Her tears turned to steam. She collapsed, writhing as visions tore through her. Flames that spoke, winds that burned, a god laughing in the heart of the sun. When she awoke, her lips were blistered, her voice was ash, but her soul was alight. She had tasted true fire. And it had tasted her back news of the demon fruit spread. At first, the villagers feared it. Then they learned its power. Elephants, who had long raided their crops, would not go near the plants. The very scent of Butjalokia made them trumpet in panic and flee. "The fire spirit protects us," the people whispered. They strung dried peppers around their homes. They burned them in censers to cleanse the air of sickness. They even tucked tiny slivers into the cradles of newborns, believing it would make them brave. The pepper was no longer just a fruit, it was a guardian. The village healer, the old woman who had once warned Luity, now studied the pepper with reverence. She discovered that, when crushed and mixed with honey, it could break a fever. When steeped in oil, it eased the ache of old bones. Pain and cure in the same bite, she marveled. This is magic. But the greatest secret was this. Those who ate it and endured its wrath found their senses heightened. Colors grew brighter. Songs grew sweeter. Life itself burned clearer. The pepper was not just heat. It was awakening. Centuries passed. Traders carried Butjalokia to distant lands. Kings demanded it in their feasts. Warriors ate it before battle, believing it made them invincible. In 2007, scientists declared it the hottest pepper on Earth. Men on the internet filmed themselves eating it, screaming, crying, begging for mercy. But in Assam, the people never forgot its true story. To them, it was never a dare. It was the ghost of a god who loved fire too much. It was the girl who hungered for a flame she could taste. It was the earth's way of teaching. The things that burn us most are the things that make us feel most alive. Even now, when you bite into a Butjalokia and your world turns to flame, know this. You are not just tasting spice. You are tasting the memory of a ghost who refused to fade. You are tasting the courage of a girl who asked for fire and was answered. You are tasting the first spark that ever danced on a human tongue. And if you listen closely, in the silence between the pain and the pleasure, you might hear Buddha laughing like the tale. Let your heart and taste buds burn with us. Subscribe to Whispering Hills for more fiery folktales from Northeast India. They say there exists a forest where the wind sings, where the leaves remain perpetually green, and the trees converse in a language only the deceased recall. They say it rains there even when the sun shines brightly, and in that rain she walks, the Rain Maiden. Children are warned never to utter her name. Hunters do not dare to gaze towards the hills where her mist lingers, and the elders, whose voices crack like dry wood, only refer to her in enigmatic phrases. She is not thunder. She is what precedes it. Yet legends are akin to flames, most brilliant in the eyes of the naive. And Zyko was indeed a naive soul. Born into the warrior clan of Kazoma, Zyko possessed a lion's heart and a soul devoid of shadows. He was celebrated for his might, feared for his fury. He once vanquished a tiger armed only with a bone blade and a prayer for vengeance. Still, none of those tales stirred the village like his bold vow. He would enter the forest and return with the Rain Maiden's tears, captured in a jar. Was it pride? Was it desperation for glory? No one could say. For whoever possessed her tears, possessed the heavens, so says the legend among this tribe. Crops would flourish without fail. Enemies would succumb before they could draw their weapons. And kings would plead to partake from your fields. Thus, on a night when the sky had torn itself apart and rain sculpted rivers into the soil, Zyko disappeared into the forest with his father's bow and a talisman of fire secured to his wrist. He was not seen again for 3 nights. But what he witnessed, he would never erase from his memory. The further he journeyed, the more peculiar the forest became. Time became indistinct. Trees shifted. He would blink and find himself on trails he had never traversed. The moon refused to remain constant, sometimes golden, sometimes absent. And then, the singing began, not from a voice, but from everything. From the leaves, from the stones, from the droplets that clung to his lashes. It was a lullaby of grief. one that tugged at the spine and resonated in the bones. And in that symphony of sorrow, she emerged. By a sacred spring that glimmered like glass, the Rain Maiden danced in solitude. Her hair sparkled with silver strands of rain. Her skin radiated like damp clay. She was barefoot, yet the earth dared not soil her. Wherever she tread, water pooled, as if the land craved her presence. Zyko lifted his bow, but his hands quivered. She turned, her eyes wide, ancient, and profoundly sorrowful. "You have come to seize what was never lost," she spoke gently. Zyko straightened. "I came to claim the skies. I came for your tears." A faint smile played on her lips, yet it did not reach her eyes. "You seek power, but you will depart with truth." Behind him something stirred. A growl, low and creeping through the air like thunder rumbling beneath. Before he could turn, a figure lunged from the shadows. The Bearman, 10 feet tall, born of claw and vengeance. Its body rippled with muscle, covered in fur tangled with moss and earth. Its eyes, they were not beastly. They were human and shattered. Zyko screamed as claws brushed against his face. He rolled, stumbled, and released an arrow. The arrow struck, but the Bearman did not flinch. "You seek the Rain Maiden," it growled, its voice torn between man and beast. "You pursue beauty and power, but can you afford the cost?" Zyko, bloodied, drew a dagger from his waist. "I fear no creature." The Bearman laughed. A deep, mournful sound. "I once claimed that too." The words froze Zyko's heart. "You were once like me." The creature stepped back, revealing a scar where its heart once beat. "I was the first to discover her. I came not with greed, but with love. I vowed to protect her. And for that, I was cursed to become her guardian, eternally." Zyko's blade slipped from his grasp. The Rain Maiden advanced, water rising around her ankles. "There is no honor in pursuing what must remain free," she stated. "The rain falls because it chooses to. There is no honor in pursuing what must remain untamed," she remarked. "The rain descends by its own will. The sky mourns because the world is in pain." Zyko fell to his knees. "I didn't grasp it," he murmured. "I merely wished to be remembered." She knelt in front of him, gently touching his forehead with a single damp finger. "Then be remembered as the last." And with that, rain cascaded down. Not from the heavens but from the trees, the earth, the very atmosphere. It enveloped Zyko like silk, then darkness. When he regained consciousness, he was no longer human. He stood taller, more powerful. His hands had transformed into claws. His voice, no longer his own. The Bearman beside him had vanished. He had assumed his role. The Rain Maiden had disappeared. Thus the story spread of how Zyko became the second protector. How those who attempted to seize the sky became bound to the ground. How the Rain Maiden continues to dance on misty evenings beneath sorrowful skies, observed by the eyes of creatures who were once men. They say if you venture into the forest and hear weeping, do not pursue it, for that is not grief. It is the storm preparing its next guardian. If this tale crawled under your skin, if you felt the rain's chill or heard the Bearman's growl in the shadows of your room, delve deeper into the woods. Subscribe to Whispering Hills, where forgotten legends breathe, where every whisper carries a warning. Turn on notifications, lest you miss when the next storm rises. And remember, some forests are best explored from afar. Thanks for watching and see you in the next tale.